Awkwardly Awesome Podcast starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go, folks. Hey, welcome to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm so thrilled to have Michelle Coulter Cameron on, and let me find her bio. I had it here. This is awkward. Where is it? Oh, just go here. Learn how to use a computer, Jason. So here's her bio. Michelle Cameron Coulter, CEO and founder of Inspiring Possibilities, is the embodiment of today's woman. Strong and empowering, she has embraced life's challenges with strength and courage. She brings insight, compassion, depth, and inspiration to the table. And check out this next spot. With 6 world championships, an Olympic gold medal, marriage, and 4 children. As a sought-after and inspirational leader, through her speaking workshops and retreats, Michelle's gift and passion is to help us to embrace our greatness in a real, authentic, healthy, and vibrant way, creating thriving community, connection, in our own gold medal results. And Michelle says being a champion is not about being the best in the world. It is about being the best we can be and being real in the process. So please help me welcome, applaud from wherever in the world you are, Michelle Cameron Coulter.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Yay. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks so much for coming.
Absolutely.
So you are in another part of the world. Where are you right now?
I am in Calgary, Canada, where we have some pleasant snow here. And I think you're where there are palm trees. Where in the world are you?
I did live before in San Diego, but now I'm in South Dakota, so we have a little snow on the ground.
Yeah, not the same as with palm trees.
No. Anyway, I was thinking about this interview, and it seemed like for me and most people, we get like into watching people on TV. Like we would see you in the Olympics doing synchronized swimming and be the and be like, oh, that's easy for Michelle. She lives in Canada and she's a synchronized swimmer. She was probably just born lucky. But is that your story? Were you like born this? Did you come out of the womb synchronized swimming?
I love it. Absolutely not. Actually, I was probably the least likely to go to the Olympics, let alone in an aquatic sport. I actually grew up in a large family. There was 10 kids. We were a blended family, yours, mine, and ours. And we learned about teamwork early on, I'll tell you. And my mom said the earth is 2/3 water. You're going to come into contact with it, so you have to learn how to swim. And I was so afraid of the water. I actually failed my first level of swimming 4 times. So, when I don't know if you remember taking your first swimming lessons, but they made you jump in to the deep end out to this pole. And I was like so afraid. There was a little boy and he kept jumping in and turning around and grabbing at the side of the pool. And the teacher said, you better not do that, or one of these times you're going to hurt yourself. I went next, jumped, turned around and hit my chin on the side of the pool, sunk to the bottom and had 4 stitches. So no, I would not say that I would have ever dreamt as a kid being shy and quiet, and that I would have, excelled to that level. So that's why I believe so much that we all have so much potential. We just don't know. We really don't know what that is until we let go of those fears. And we all have those fears, like in different areas of our life. Until we let go of them, do we actually know what we're capable of? And it's not like all of a sudden you go to the Olympics. It's like these baby steps of building that confidence along the way, right?
So one of your first times in the water, you're scared, and then you hit your chin, so you associate pain with water, and so from the moment you hit your chin, what were your feelings when you thought of swimming?
Well, it was interesting that you asked that, because it was the time that I hit my chin was actually my 4th attempt. I had failed that level like 3 times already. And when I hit my chin and I sunk to the bottom of the pool, that was actually a turning point for me, because I remember like I was sort of knocked out, which probably helped a little bit. But sitting at the bottom of the pool, I looked up and went, this is not so bad. And I totally relaxed, and I actually floated to the surface, which is the irony that they call it, the dead man's float, which when we let go, we actually float. When we let go of those fears, we actually move, and we actually, can create something that we didn't know that we could. So, I talk about that now, about, sink, swim, and float. That sinking part is that fear that is normal to have in a new situation, or something that we build up to be way worse than we thought it was. And it's never as bad as we actually think it is. So that was a turning point. Actually, those stitches are, I never thought about that way. These are kind of like a reminder of what's possible when I let go. And when I fight against something, then it's kind of a cool little anchor for me now.
Oh, so when you hit the side of the pool, you actually had to get stitches?
Yeah, 4 stitches in my chin. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, how old were you when you floated to the top? What do you say?
I think I was around, that's a good question. I think I was like 9 or 10. And then I actually didn't even find my sport of synchronized swimming until I was 13 and my sister was 12. We were 12 and 13 years old. And everyone would say, oh, that's way too old to start, because most of the swimmers had started when they were, they had been swimming 5 and 6 years already. So we were kind of late to the game, as people would say, oh, you're too old. Well, I think if we're loving something and we're improving, don't get me wrong, I was still, I could, back in the day, you only had to be able to swim a couple lengths to be able to try out for the synchro club. And I had gone as far as I could in swimming lessons. And I think at 13, you had to be 13 to do your bronze cross or bronze medallion. I'm not sure what they call it now. So, my parents were like, they liked keeping us in activities to be, in a healthy environment. So it's like, what else can we put them in? And they found synchronized swimming. I didn't even know what it was. I thought of, Esther Williams in the movies, like the slides and the waterfalls and stuff like that. Well, that's it's a way more difficult than that. But so that's how I kind of fell in, was at a late age. And the way I looked at it is that I had so many role models that had been swimming for 5 and 6 years already, and the world champion in our club.
So after you sunk to the bottom and floated to the top, did that kind of end your fear of being in the water?
That was kind of the first breakthrough. And then I let go to learn how to swim. Like, it was like, okay, like once I got that comfort, like, and it's interesting, like if you go in a pool and you're tight and you're, you actually sink. And when you relax, you actually float. So that was the turning point, the breaking point of me actually relaxing in the water and starting to enjoy it. So yeah.
And then you said there was someone amazing in your swimming club?
Yeah. So when my sister and I started, we actually had the world champion in our club. And I used to watch her and go, how does she do that? I want to be able to do that. I'd watch her half above the water and half below. And if we had to do 5 times something, I'd do 6 times something. And I would actually get her to help me put my cap on because I thought I would get like good mojo. But I realized now looking back how important mentorship is, like watching somebody who's doing something and going, how do you do that? And, I don't think she realized what an inspiration she was just because she was doing her thing and realizing the ripple effect that she had for people around her, like me, like I would have never, like just watching her going, I want to be able to do that. And so, yeah. And even then, as I was watching her, like I was still not very good at all. It took me a long time, but it was like people were like, oh, we didn't realize you had that much potential. And me neither, because every day it was just, how do I do something a little bit better than I did the day before?
Where do you think you got that practice ethic of how do I do something just a little bit better than I did the day before?
Definitely a lot of it was from my coaches because when you fix something and it's like they're moving you to the next level and you strengthen that muscle, right? And um, uh, it's not that there weren't days that I didn't go to practice and I had like a fear of something new or whatever, or something that was really difficult, or a part that we were training that we were underwater for a long period of time that would scare me, right? Like it's not like I didn't have those moments, but when I would complete something and feel like, oh, you did that, like, or you did that better. And it's like, okay, if I can do that, then I can do this. And it was just that feeling of, I think we're all like that as human beings when we get something like that we didn't think we can do and we nail it, or we, the first time speaking on a stage, or, that's something that's really, it could be super and it's very, we could be really fearful around it. And when we do, it's like, okay, that wasn't as bad, as I thought it was going to be. And that kind of, it gives us that kind of inspiration and drive to keep going, right?
Yeah. Do you have any ideas on how to make you want a step so you go forward, but how do you avoid making it so big that it becomes overwhelming?
That's a great question, and it's kind of baby steps. Like it's like seeing where you want to go potentially. Like for example, like I didn't have the Olympics in my mind when I started. It just like, okay, you make the club team, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you excel there, and then you drop down. Maybe have challenges, push through those challenges. It's really taking it one step at a time. Like and finding. I think this is really important. Like for sure tough days of training, but find something that you love or gives you joy in the middle of it, like that's something that makes you and that feeling of accomplishment for sure is something like when you conquer something that you didn't think you could do, but it is those baby steps and celebrating those baby steps. Our coach was amazing because she not only coached us in what we needed to do better, but she would if she gave us a correction on something, would go back and comment, okay, you fixed that, or you still need to work on that. And then what's the next part? So it was like celebrating the things that we did right and then pushing to do the next step. So it is those foundational baby steps every day, because it's when I say when you learn something not to go backwards again, but it's also strengthening that muscle, strengthening that new belief, strengthening that new way of doing something, and then we build on it, right? So it's one step at a time.
When you say you found joy in this rigorous process, what moments filled you with joy along the way?
That's a really good. You're taking me back in time because I'm going to relate this to now even too. Is like finding the little things to celebrate every day, or having fun with your teammates that you're working with. Like it's like the last few years I was swimming, we were training 6 to 8 hours a day. Leading
6 to 8 hours a day?
Yeah, leading up to the Olympics, it was 6 to 8 hours a day. So it was like, train, rest, sleep, eat, train, rest, eat, sleep. So, the friendships were super important. The camaraderie, like, joking around, only so much. But yeah, finding those things to make it fun. Otherwise, we don't sustain, like we can't, if it's arduous every day, it's like, why am I doing this? Right. So trying to find something fun in every day somehow. So
Trying to find something fun.
yeah.
Then at what point along this journey did you have the vision, like I want to develop my craft to the point I can go to the Olympics and succeed?
That's a great question. Do you know, I alluded to a little bit, I started to have uh, coaches and judges say, "Oh, we didn't realize you had that much potential." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, me neither." Right. So as soon as
Mm.
like people around us believe in us, right? Like getting the people we surround ourselves with is so important. Their belief in me was built before mine was in myself. And as I started to build that belief, like our sport wasn't even an Olympic sport until 1984. This is dating me. This is a long time ago, but I had the opportunity to try out, be one of 5 pairs in the country to try out for the Olympics. And I knew I wasn't good enough at that point in time because I knew like my competitors and other teammates that were stronger. But that was the first time, like, wow, to try out for the Olympics. What's the difference between trying out and actually going? And, just that building that belief and confidence. And I have something with me I can show you. I don't know if I shared that way. I think I shared it with, I don't want to say, before we dive in any further, I was going to say this at the very beginning. I am just so honored to be here on the show with you, Jason, because Jason was my guest on the very first summit that I did, Inspiring Possibility Summit, the Courage to Jump In. So I was just so, honored to be hopping on your podcast here. And I think we talked a little bit about, those celebrating our accomplishments and what it takes to, get past our fears and take those baby steps to start building that confidence to what we're doing. And I don't know if I shared this with you, but I have this on my desk.
Well, what do you have?
It's my my most improved trophy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of people in your position might hold up your gold medal at this moment in time. Why instead did you hold up your most improved trophy?
Because this was from my second year in swimming, because I told you I was so bad. Like the second year I made the senior team, and it wasn't because I was good enough. They needed another swimmer. And I was back into that scared place again. And again, I just kept, looking to my teammates and mentorship, and just every day, just feeling like I'm doing something a little bit better.
Wow.
This helped me believe in myself. And my Olympic medal would have never been without this. Like it was the first kind of step to me kind of going, oh, maybe I can do this. And the interesting thing is, it sounds funny coming from a competitive sport, but I never swam to try and beat somebody else. Sounds weird, but if I just kept improving, and then the results started to happen, and it's like, wow. And then you start building that confidence. Confidence comes from doing. Like we can want confidence, it doesn't come until we actually do. And that's how we start to build our confidence.
Confidence comes from doing, and that leads to my next. So many of us get opportunities in life. Like you got an opportunity to try out for the Olympics that first time, but so many of us say, "Oh, I better not do that. I'll just embarrass myself. Like they'll pick someone else. Why even try?" what would you say to all of us who talk ourselves out of trying for the opportunities?
It's like, what do you have to lose? Like when you don't step into that, you don't even, you miss out on the experience of what might you, like if no matter what happens, you're gaining something from it. I'm going to give you an example. I have 4 kids and amazing. I've learned so much from my kids, and my husband was a volleyball player. He played in 2 Olympic games, and everybody could go, well, that's a lot of pressure for your kids. You know, for us, we just want our kids to love what they're doing, to be active in sport and love what they're doing. And I remember when he was in junior high school, which I think you guys call it middle school. I don't know. It's different terms in Canada. Yeah, junior high school and grade 7. And he'd been playing volleyball, and he signed up to try out for the senior team. And he signed up, and he turned around. There was all these big guys behind him, and he went to take his name off. He goes, well, I'm not going to try out for it. And his sister happened to be there, which I was so grateful for. She was a year older than him, 2 years older than him. And she goes, why wouldn't you just try? Like, what do you have to lose to try out? And he ended up leaving his name on. And it was just that little bit of a nudge, because he didn't feel like he was good enough, but he had some part of him that wanted to try out. And, you know, he ended up making that senior team and was a great contributor. So we don't know. The biggest part is having that courage to jump in. And what's the worst case scenario, right? What's the worst case? If you're okay with that, like, what if you don't make the team? But you have that experience of trying and like getting into there. And like, what did you learn from it? It's like, you know, we don't know until I always say, like, we don't need to get in the deep end, but we get to more than just put our big toe in, right? Like we get in and experience and look at, okay, whatever comes out of this, I'm going to grow somehow. Like how many experiences have we all went, oh, I don't think I can do it. And then we did, and we're like, holy cow, I'm so grateful I did it. We all have experiences, and that we all have experiences where like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then we're like, dang, I wish I would have at least just tried it. You know, like look at you, Jason, speaking all over, like people are hearing you from all over the world. What was that like the first time? Like it's scary, but what made you like, you know, decide and choose to, you know, get in that scary, uncertain zone? That's where magic is.
I frankly was tired of feeling badly about myself, and then something within me is like, oh, I have a gift, so I guess I went for it.
Oh, so good. And there's another part of it too, like not worrying about what people will think. Like we worry so much about what people think, right? And
it's such a tough one.
it is tough. And it's
How have you gotten around that in your own life?
and that's a big one. Like I come from a judge sport too, and we're already so tough on ourselves, right? Like as human beings, we're probably tougher on ourselves than anybody else, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, they say we have how many thoughts a day, and the percent of them that's actually negative thoughts is crazy. Like, so just first of all, being aware of that, like what are we saying to ourselves? And when we just change our language of how we're talking to ourselves. Actually, I have something over here I'll show you, which is like, are you okay if I move my computer a little bit?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to grab something out of my office. I have this in my studio all the time. Like I told you, my kids are some of my biggest inspiration. I've learned some of the best lessons from my children, which they're all young adults now. But my if you're okay if I share this story, my oldest daughter, who's now 27, when she was in grade 6, did a science project. And when you think about, you know, science projects back in school, and she said,
oh, volcano.
Yeah, yes, the volcanoes and stuff. And she's like, Mom, I know what I want to do my science project on. I want to do it on the effects of positive and negative thoughts on our energy. And I'm like,
your daughter?
yes,
Wow.
yes, at 10 years old. And I'm like, okay, so how are you going to do that? That's awesome. And so she did it in 2 parts. And the first part was What we say actually physiologically changes our body. Like if we say, I'm strong and invincible, if I were to do a muscle test on you and you had your arm up and you say, I'm strong and invincible, it's hard for me to push your arm down. If you say I'm weak and insignificant, our body shows that, right? If we believe or we don't believe. So that was one part of it, what people say. Then the second part she did was she planted bean seeds, and it was in the same soil, the same sunlight, the same water, and she had a control, a positive, and a negative. So the control she left alone. The positive, she said positive things to and played nice music. And the negative, she took into the bathroom and yelled at 3 times a day. And she would come out going, Mom, I hate doing that part. And I'm so happy your podcast is visual, because I'm going to show you this picture here. If you can see it. So the negative grew about 0.5 centimeters a day. The alone grew about a centimeter a day. And the positive grew about 2 centimeters a day.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? And look at the leaves on there, like the amount of leaves on the positive as opposed to the negative.
Wow, what an image. What an image.
Isn't that powerful? And that's a plant. So imagine the energy, like what we're saying to a plant, what we say to ourselves, and the impact that that has, whether we believe in ourselves or when we get in a downward spiral and we feed into that negativity. This daughter also at 10 years old, when I say my kids have been an inspiration, I'm not kidding. Like, I remember this one day I was having a tough time, and too many things on my plate and running out the door, and the mama vein about to pop out of my neck. And she opened the garage door and she said, Mommy, remember, I love you. And remember, the energy you put out is the environment you create.
Wow.
Pretty profound. And I'm like, that is so true. Like, the energy we put out is the environment we create in our minds of what we believe we can do, how we encourage or discourage, what the energy we're putting into each other, what we're saying. The biggest one, it all starts with ourselves and in our mind, and what we say and what we believe and what we actually, this plant's a perfect example. We actually take that on, the effects of our positive and negative thoughts on our energy. Incredible.
So allow me to go on a brief tangent here, which might work and it might not.
Okay.
How did you meet your husband?
I met my husband in Venezuela at the Pan American Games. He was there playing volleyball, and I was there synchronized swimming. Actually, there was a compound where all the Canadians hung out, and it was very interesting because where the village was in Venezuela, it wasn't totally completed. So when you checked in, they gave you the door to your dorm. And there was a compound outside where all the athletes hung out. And that's like the Canadian team all just kind of hung out there. And so we met there with the whole volleyball team, and we talked a few times. We didn't end up actually, going out to about a year later, because it turned out they were based in the same city. So we went out off and on for almost 7 years, because he was traveling the world with his sport. They would be over in Europe for like months at a time. So
check this out. If his sister had been having an off day that day he was signed up for the volleyball and with all the tall people, and if she had been just like, if my brother doesn't want to sign up for that, who cares? And if she had been in her own world and not done that, you two might have never met, because maybe he wouldn't have done volleyball, and then he wouldn't have been at the Pan American Games. And
with my son, wouldn't have gone the route he did. And I'm sure there was things in my husband's life too that were turning points that would have brought him to where he was too. Yeah, everything. I love how you said.
Oh, shoot! It was
that was my yes. But you know what? That's okay, Jason. Do you know what?
It kind of fell apart there.
No,
I thought it was your husband.
Honestly, you know what? You almost made me teary in when you said, if my daughter had have been in her own world and not there encouraging my son, Like he probably would not have pursued that. He wouldn't have stepped into that. And, whether you're talking about my husband or my son, we all have somebody that at some point has seen something that we didn't and stood up for us and helped us move in a direction that we might not have ever taken, right? So, like, who knows, like on my husband's side, the influencers that, got him to that point, that I wouldn't have ever met him either. Like if he hadn't stepped through, I remember him sharing stories of one coach that was so tough on him. And one of his teammates came to him and said, he's tough on you because he sees the potential that you have. So when you said about my daughter doing that for my son, like at that moment, not being in her own world, but like looking out for someone else and seeing something in them, that's so huge. Like, where does that happen? Where do we have that opportunity in our lives to be able to kind of go, hey, I see something in you, and not just be quiet about it, but to do something about it, to step in that leadership and encourage, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So good.
So I have the next question, but first I want to play you a little something.
Okay.
See how close they are in their
This was a great routine. It was very, very difficult, but I think Michelle and I both really liked it. It had a little bit of everything in it, and I think the artistry of it was really good too. It's interesting too when you're underneath the water and you can see peripheral, and you know if you're having a good swim or not. And I mean, I knew that Michelle and I were having a good swim too.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome.
So looking at that from my view, not knowing much of anything about synchronized swimming, that looks perfect through my eyes.
That's so awesome. Oh, it's so cool seeing that. That was Carolyn, my duet partner, who, we were together 24/7 basically. And, when you say that, and I just actually, my daughter found from a friend, forwarded us all the interviews and the whole swim that I had not seen and my kids had not seen. They'd seen parts of the swim, but it was all the interviews leading up and post. And I've spoke about, Carolyn and I talk about the couple places where we know that there was like little things off. Like when I dove in at the very beginning and I questioned myself, is it 1 or is it 2? And I'm going, you have done this how many times over with a weight belt on, and like trust yourself and let go. Trust yourself and let go. And that sport is totally crazy sport because you're holding your breath at the same time. It's all about perfection.
Oh, wow.
And it's pretty cool to watch it this many years later, to see it and to see Carolyn.
So what does imperfect best mean to you in relation to Olympic level performance?
Imperfect best is that there's no such thing as perfection, and it's letting go to do the best you can at that moment in time and be in that moment in time. Like, I love that you asked that question, because imperfect best, I mean, we won a gold with imperfect best. Like, there's no such thing. And I think when we let go of feeling like we have to hit that perfection and we go for excellence and go for that imperfect best, it allows us to be free to actually do it. When we look at perfection, like it's really not something that's sustainable or attainable. And that can freeze us if that's what we're going after. So even at the Olympics, as far as our sport goes too, like, it's out of our hands. Once we swim, we have no control over what the judges do. So it's like we get to, actually, our motto before we swam would be, we'd buzz each other fingers, so we'd be on the same wave, shake out each other's hands. And honestly, the last thing we'd say to each other was, let's have fun. It really was that, because if we're too stressed and we didn't get to be in that moment and there was nothing else we could do but go out there and give it everything that we had trained for, and then let go. And then absolutely let go, because it was out of our hands. And just when we finished, it was knowing that we had given the best performance that we could at that time, and then turn it over. Right?
Well, I'm getting goosebumps. That's always so good. One more. Just a few more questions, but kind of to tie this all together. Mentors, imperfect best, life changes. Would you talk a little bit about Superfly and what would inspire Superfly?
Sure, absolutely. I talked at the beginning that I'm very grateful to be from a wonderful big family, 10 kids, blended family. And yeah,
10,
10.
10.
And I joke around sort of saying, what's the definition of a dysfunctional family? My definition is a family with more than one member because we all have our stuff, right? So my dad, who I'm very grateful for, adopted us all. My mom had 4 on her own. My dad had 5. He adopted us all, and then they had one together. So we were kind of like the Brady Bunch on steroids. And my dad is a chiropractor, so I joke that he kept me in line in more than one way. Just an amazing man. So all about health and well-being, and that's what got me into sport. Really was like as a sick kid to be active and do something I never would have dreamt it led to where it did. So
you didn't even mention, we didn't mention that earlier. I just want people to hear that you were a kid who struggled with sickness too.
Yeah.
On top of everything else.
Yes.
Please continue.
Yeah. So my dad was just such an amazing driving force, such an amazing human being, huge heart, and all about health and well-being and active. And he was diagnosed with a degenerative disease very early at 56 years old. And he was a chiropractor, had his practice at our house and on the homestead on an acreage. And said he would be in a wheelchair by the time he was 60 if he lasted to 60. And I am very happy to say that we had him up until 2 weeks before his 80th birthday. And
so you lasted 2 decades more than I gave him. 2 decades.
Yes. Two. My mom and him, amazing driving force together. He did a lot of really positive things. He definitely went into swoops of emotionally challenged when your body starts shutting down, but he elected not to go on all the meds because he said, if you can tell me it won't shut down my systems, because he wasn't in pain. It was very similar to ALS. So a degenerative muscle disease that when he used his muscles, it actually ate the muscles. So a lot of really positive things that he did. And then he got to a point where he did end up in a wheelchair the last 3 years of his life. And became very difficult, especially the first part. Like he started to have falls and then, emotionally that's tough when you're mentally 100% there and your body's shutting down. So my mom had this kind of game plan in her mind. And the one day when my dad was having a particularly rough day, she came with a pair of scissors and cut his favorite pants. And he's like, what the heck? Like talk about changing your state really quickly. And she said, I'll have those back for you. And she came back and they had a big zipper in. So it was easy to zip them on and zip them off. And my brother walked in, he goes, that's a Superfly. And that's how it kind of started.
That's how the name Superfly. Yes. It's literally a fly.
Yeah.
Based on a fly.
Yeah. So at the age of 75 and 77, it was not their intention whatsoever. So we talk about, when something is bigger than us and we have a vision and passion about something, the OTs were like, you need to do something with this. And my mom's like, yeah, no. And they ended up launching a company at 75 and 77 years old called it's super-fly.com, and it's adaptive wear so that people can look good and have dignity and get changed in and out of their clothes in minutes instead of someone trying to get them dressed and injury for caregivers, etc. So that actually gave my dad such purpose again, because he's a giver, a huge heart, and he likes to help. And we all want to feel like we're on purpose somehow. And so that gave him such a purpose to connect and help people have an easier time and to have dignity. And so
let me get this straight. He was 77.
Yeah.
And had a degenerative disease, and he's he started a new company.
With my mom, initiated by my mom. Yeah. So if you go to
77 with a
yeah.
degenerative disease.
Yeah. If you look at super-fly.com on the website, there's actually a story, their love story, which is like amazing. Their love story, which, just being there for each other through the ups and the downs. And my mom always said, something good comes out of everything. And Superfly was one of the great gifts that came out of this. So they were able to help and are still helping many people. So my dad's no longer here, but his legacy and his heart lives on. So it was quite a gift. And that just tells you the type of people that, I was so fortunate to be raised with, for sure.
Wow. How do we sum this up? I'm getting the feeling that part of your message is whoever you are, look at what you want to do and take the very next step and look
Yes.
for opportunities and take the opportunities instead of making excuses.
Yeah. To really listen, what are we telling ourselves, and just take that leap of faith, that courage to just step in, like, to what does it look like? And we don't know what things are going to lead to. That's why I showed you my little trophy too. We have no idea what something's going to turn into. And sometimes our biggest challenges, overcoming our biggest challenges, end up being the biggest gifts that we can have. And that ripple effect, we don't know what that ripple effect is, right? One of my favorite quotes is, "We know not yet the significance of our actions." Jason, you're a perfect example of an inspiration of kind of taking something that finally, as you said, you were tired of, feeling that way. How do you change it? Do something that you've dreamt of and jump in and create it, right? So it's and that inspires others to do the same, right? So.
Thank you so much. Do you have any last words of wisdom you want to leave the audience with?
Let me see. Yeah, just my company is all about inspiring possibilities. That's what I just feel like I'm so called to share, and that we all have so much incredible gifts and talents, and it does sometimes take other people around us to see it first, and then surround yourself by people who believe in you and give you that push, not just tell us how great we are, but when we need that little swift kick in the butt, you've got this, because sometimes people outside of ourselves can see it before we can see it for ourselves. So, surrounding ourselves by community that does that. And that's one of the things that I'm doing now, is I'm creating these inspired action pods where I have teams of people that work together for each of their own visions, but together, when we know each other's stories and we know what each other want to create, then we hold each other to help make that happen. And it happens over time. Like, we build that muscle, we build that endurance, we build that confidence, we build that ripple effect for each other.
What is your website, Michelle?
My website is michellecameroncoulter.com. So it's all my name. And yeah. And my summit that Jason was one of my very first summit is Inspiring Possibilities Now.
Can they find the summit through your website?
Yeah, they can. I'm just changing some stuff on it. They can go in there and register and get sent some of the interviews, but there'll be new things coming up there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Michelle. It's been such an honor to have you on. I'm going to do the closing. Please stay on just for a sec, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thanks so much, Jason. It was such a gift to be on here with you. You are amazing. Big hugs, my friend.
Big hugs. You're amazing too. Thank you. So let's wrap this up. Wasn't that great? My show's awesome. Okay, I found how we're going to wrap this up. It's going to be the thank you and the book thing. Okay, here it goes.